Why is it so hard for companies to go down in price and so easy to go up? We're discussing chapter 4 of The Innovator's Dilemma by Clayton Christensen, and one of the most important dynamics of disruptive innovation, which is it's easy to go up, it's hard to go down. This is the Not Even Wrong podcast. It's November 11th, 2020. I'm Krim Delko. For today, the fund is up 5.5%. The market's up 70 basis points. For the year, we are up 207%. The market is up 10.5%. We're outperforming by 196.5%. So if you put $100 in Orange Capital Partners on January 1st, 2020, you would have roughly $307 today and $110.5 in the S&P 500 if you had done the same thing on January 1st, 2020. Chapter 4 of The Innovator's Dilemma discusses one of the most fundamental questions of disruptive innovation, which is why is it so hard for companies to go down in price, and why is it so easy to go up? Christensen specifically talks about the disk drive industry. He also mentioned the excavation industry. In both cases, in the first 3 chapters, he explains how disruptive entrants usually start with lower end markets, with lower margins, lower cost structures, and then drive their performance metrics up, and then get into the incumbents markets, which are typically higher margin, higher price type markets, and start dominating them and killing them and getting them basically out of the market. So he's asking in chapter 4, he's talking about the question, so why is it so hard for incumbents to go down in price? We're going to later in this episode talk about Tesla, but I want to bring the conclusion right now so people know why this more theoretical detour is so important for exactly what we're doing right now with Tesla. Tesla has chosen to focus relentlessly on their cost structure because it is our conclusion from chapter 4 that a company is defined by their cost structure. In the end, the success and failure, the markets that you can conquer, the market shares you can gain, the people you can hire, the customers you can please, all these things that encompass a company, all can be defined as what is your cost structure. If you look at a company through the lens of a cost structure, you can A, understand what markets they're in, and B, which markets they're going to be successful in. And maybe you can also look into the future and understand where they're going to play. This is what we're going to try to do in this episode, and also in the next episode. We're going to definitely spend 2 or even 3 episodes on chapter 4, because I think this is the absolute key insight of the innovator's dilemma. A company is defined by their cost structure, and that explains disruptive innovation. It explains entrants gaining share, incumbents losing share. It explains companies like Amazon. It explains companies like Tesla. We can go on and on. But let's get back to chapter 4. The question is very simple. Why is it hard to go up? Why is it hard to go down and so easy to go up? What Christensen means with that is the following. So let's assume you are an incumbent in the disk drive industry. You're very good at 8-inch drives. You're selling to IBM and companies like that. Those things are going into desktops, large computers. Now there's a new innovation, the 3.5-inch drive. The 3.5-inch drive is lower energy and lower weight, and it's good for things like notebooks. Notebooks in those days are low volume, not very interesting. The large volume, the large margins, the high margins are in the 8-inch drive business. So what do the salespeople do of IBM? They focus on the high margin products. Sales meetings, board meetings, CEO meetings, CFO, you name it. It's always about where is the most profitable customer. Well, it's in the 8-inch. Oh, excuse me, sir, there's the 3.5-inch market. Should we invest in that market? Well, what is the outlook there? Well, look, it's a low margin business because the structure is very different. The people that are buying those things they're going into notebooks. The notebooks have very different cost structures, and we don't have the volumes. We don't have the kinds of margins that our 8-inch disk drives offer, because we've been having sustained innovation over decades now, and we've been able to really innovate a lot, drive down the cost, keep the price high because we're dominating. So why don't we keep this market and don't invest in this new market? Funds, resources, attention stay with the large market, the high margin market, and they're not going into the low margin market. That's why incumbents don't play in that low margin market. Now, what happens over time is that those 3.5-inch become better and better and better and start penetrating into the 8-inch or 5-inch market, i.e., those notebook type disk drives, they start becoming good at things that the larger disk drive customers also value. For example, capacity per dollar, power consumption, whatever it is, that whatever the vectors are that the customers of the 8-inch disk drives value, in particular, how many megabytes can I store per dollar? Those things become interesting because the smaller disk drive can now start delivering the same types of performances, or in the realm of performance versus price versus weight, power consumption, all these things all of a sudden start looking better for the smaller ones. So they start penetrating, eating into the market share of the larger disk drive incumbents. The problem for the disk drive incumbents now is that they don't have the cost structure to compete with those smaller disk drives. They don't have the cost structure. That is the key. And this is the absolute most important sentence in chapter 4. You see, you are now looking at competition coming from the 3.5-inch disk drive market, but you can't just switch and produce them because you don't have the cost structure, you don't have the margin structure. You're being squeezed. At best, you can maybe buy those competitors, but if you miss that window of opportunity, you're done. This is the situation that is explained in chapter 1 and 2, and now the question in chapter 4 is, why is it that incumbents cannot go down, and why is it that it's easy to go up? Well, the answer why it's easy to go up is very easy, because the higher up you go in the market, the higher the price, the higher the margin. The problem is, if you keep going up, then the others from below start creeping up to you, and it becomes a bit like in the Titanic, when the Titanic sinks and the water starts coming to your chin, and so on and so forth, and you start drowning. Now let's talk about Tesla, in specifically, what is Tesla trying to achieve? I think Tesla, intentionally or unintentionally, is exactly doing what Clayton Christensen is recommending, which is focus on your cost structure. Your company is defined by your cost structure. Elon Musk has said it in several contexts. One, he keeps saying our only source of competitive advantage long term is going to be our manufacturing capacity. And that's just another word for saying we're going to have the volumes and the cost structure to play in the markets we want to play. Second, they announced a $25,000 car. So clearly they decided they're going to go down in cost to the point where they're going to meet a certain cost margin, market performance vector type space where they're comfortable. They might even go lower, but right now that's where they feel comfortable. And we've discussed in previous episodes that this is in particular an answer to the looming disruption from below coming from China. So they're saying, look, we're going to get a $25,000 car profitably at volume. So when those guys that are now selling skateboards with some electricity attached to it, so basically very, very low-end cars, when those guys get to the point where they can offer maybe $20,000 cars, which are good quality, we will be there with a $25,000 luxury, electric, fancy, fast, AI-driven car attached to the Tesla network, and we will be competitive. This is the answer. So to summarize, our first discussion of chapter 4 focuses on the question, why is it so easy to go up and so hard to go down in price? And the answer is, it is easy to go up because you have a certain cost structure, and the higher up in the market you go, the higher your margins are. And it's hard to go down because that's the exact opposite, the reverse. Your margins get squeezed, your CEO and CFO and everybody is not going to give you resources to go there. And just to end this episode, we also want to just bring up, and we've spoken about this before, but it is a beautiful example of how the existing car industry, the ICE industry, is reacting to Tesla exactly how Christensen predicts it. They're going up in market. Daimler in particular has actually given a strategic presentation about a month ago where they specifically talk about luxury. They define themselves as a luxury brand. I've spoken about this in my column for Neue Zürcher Zeitung, where I talk about them becoming kind of like an Hermes of cars. So they want to go up in market and away from the Tesla disruption. They're also talking about increasing their service revenue, which is just another word for saying we want to increase the price of the car. The question here is, of course, number one, do you have value to back up this price increase? And number two, what are you going to do with Tesla? Tesla is clearly going to go after you and kill you. So that's why I called, in my column, I called Daimler a Selbstmord commando or kamikaze, suicide commando, because this is clearly going exactly according to Christensen into a disastrous, disruptive situation. Similar strategies by BMW. I would say even Volkswagen, even though they pretend to be different, I still believe Volkswagen has similar problems, a little bit better than the other two. Okay, well, I'm going to talk about Volkswagen in a specific episode. All I want to say about Volkswagen is that most of the money is made through their luxury segments. It is very difficult for them to make money with their volume segments. What they're doing right now is they're bringing in volume on the electric side, but their luxury side, which is in particular Audi or the high Porsche and these kinds of cars, they're going to be disrupted by Tesla also. So I'm not quite sure how Volkswagen is going to react here. And I think the market is a bit misinterpreting Volkswagen's position. We also want to emphasize the fact that it's not just on the car side where Tesla is disrupting from below. It's also on the AI side, another very, very clear sign where Tesla is driving performance and coming from below, attacking particularly people like Waymo and others like Cruise with their kind of low-end camera-driven AI, which maybe doesn't have the kinds of performance metrics that AI theoretically offers. But given where Tesla is and the data advantage and the iterative advantage that they have, we believe that Tesla will be able to creep up and become a disruptive a disruptive entrant in the AI market. We are in that process right now, so we're kind of not seeing exactly what's going on. We're a bit like the fish that doesn't see the water. But I would say if you look from outside, what's going on is we have a sort of theoretical threshold, which is sort of an AI that is attainable with LiDAR and all that stuff. And Tesla is coming from a low-end camera-only AI. So there's a gap, and everybody in Silicon Valley is saying, oh, Waymo is ahead and Tesla isn't. Actually, Waymo yesterday said that they're one order of magnitude better than Tesla. But what the reality is that this one order of magnitude better is, first of all, at a very, very high price point. It's not even offered in the market. So it's such a high price point that it's not even offered in the market, while Tesla is offering their AI in the marketplace and is successfully iterating and getting better. So it's only a question of time. We believe in the next 2 to 3 years, Tesla will catch up on the performance metrics side to the point where Waymo's and Cruises and all these other AIs will become obsolete and everybody's going to have to jump on the Tesla bandwagon. So to conclude, first discussion of chapter 4, question, why is it so easy to go up and so hard to go down in market? The answer is because of your cost structure. In the end, a company is defined by their cost structure, and we're very happy with Tesla's approach here, which is the cost structure defines Tesla. Decarbonizing the energy of the world in the future depends on the cost structure of Tesla, and there Tesla is driving cost down by iterating battery technology, drivetrain, solar, and AI. This is the key of the success of Tesla in the future. Thank you.